This is AV SuperFriends Off the Rails, an almost regularly scheduled open discussion on audio and video in higher education. We'll sound off about our most brilliant ideas, our dumbest mistakes, and everything in between. And because this conversation will almost certainly go off the rails at some point, we'll end up covering just about everything else. And now, the AV SuperFriends. For October 11th, 2024, it's the best sounding podcast in higher ed. This is the AV SuperFriends Off the Rails, episode number 96. 4 more to go. Then we're done. 96 of them. Wow. Plus all the other stuff we've done. It's closer to 200, but stop ignoring how I count things. Broadcasting live across 4 time zones from coast to coast, easternmost to westernmost, northernmost to southernmost, gate post to hitching post. I'm your local host who can boast the most milquetoast and utmost humility. I'm Chris Dexter. Time for another Friday afternoon podcast adventure. And let's say hello to our slightly larger than normal panel of AV SuperFriends. So today I'm joined by a relational integration developer, good Lord, from Kansas City, Jamie Reinhardt.
It's a new app now that you can find a relationship in.
That sounds terrible. In like 2008. Also joined by a national divisional developer from 2 developers. Good crap. National divisional developer from Corvallis, Oregon, Mark Kolowazinski.
I have an idea. We're going to draw all the lines and we're going to divide horizontally.
So I bring them together, Mark tears them apart.
Tear them apart. That's what we're going to do
I should probably look at that when I write these up. Also a future usability supervisor from Greensboro, North Carolina, Larry Darling.
Yep, using the future again.
Also joined by our vice president for internal communications from Bowling Green, Kentucky, Justin Rexing.
There shall be no external communications.
Only internal. And finally joined by a dynamic paradigm representative from an acoustically treated survival bunker deep in the mountains outside of Los Angeles, California, Mikey Schaefer.
Yeah, there are plenty of bunkers in the mountains of California. I know other states don't want to believe that, but we've got our mountain people too.
That's right. It's secure.
I think that's the longest title we've ever had.
Seriously.
Well,
It worked out.
I'll thank you to respect my title.
Does it fit on a business card?
On
You
two
got both
sides.
sides to work with.
Yeah. So on
You have to
today's
put a
show,
QR code just to put it up there.
Yeah.
on today's show, we're going to discuss Bluetooth assistive technologies and AI generated transcripts for your meetings and classes. But first, it's not the news, it's some housekeeping. So always a reminder, we'd love for you to connect with us on the socials. Follow us on Twitter at AV SuperFriends, LinkedIn. I don't know, figure it out. Find it on LinkedIn. It's terrible. YouTube at AV SuperFriends. Follow us there to keep up with the latest updates and news and all that fun stuff. I do have a link tree, but I'm not going to try to explain how to find that on this one. But go to linktree/AVSF. You figure it out. Please spread the word. Share this podcast with your friends, enemies, perfect strangers, anyone else who might enjoy it. If you could hold people down and tickle them, and while they're distracted, add this podcast to their phone, that would be great.
Yeah, if you ever see a phone just lying around,
Just grab that phone,
add this in their
subscribe.
podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not weird.
Just get on the bus and the subway and airdrop it to everybody within reach.
There you go.
Just ride public transportation, airdropping the link to everybody.
Spin up a little
less weird
hotspot that
than
says free
tickling,
Wi-Fi.
I think.
And just go for it.
If
I'm
you'd like to
confident
support
that we're probably going to talk about some Bluetooth solutions that may be able to help us out.
No,
Oh.
hey,
That's exciting. These are
We
if you-
may have talked about
that was not on purpose. We did not try to set that up.
If you'd like to support the show, please consider
Super
donating.
Friends.
Your contributions help us keep bringing you the honest content you love and love to hate. So find the donation link in the show notes and on the website. Please reach out via email, mailbag at AV SuperFriends. Find us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We want to hear from you and get your comments. And finally, while you're subscribing those random phones to all those different services, please rate and review because that helps with the algorithms and bumps us up higher. So there you go. All right, enough with that nonsense. You've waited for it all week. Where's my button? It's over here. It's time for Justin singing along with the news theme.
Oh. Yeah.
So excited.
Now, maybe I should just do that live instead and then re-record that and just...
No,
no.
That's how you did it the first time, and I captured it. So.
it's so good. It's so
You
good.
can never recreate that magic.
So today's news comes from EdSurge, and I guess a bit of background here. Our entire show today, I think this is one of the first times we've ever done this. We're going to have the news article, and all the topics of discussion is all generally on the same overall topic, but with different spins on it, obviously, of assistive technologies. And so,
Very well curated. This took like hours of conversation to get here.
this did. Well, it took a lot of setting up, actually. And we'll jump right into it. So today's article is from EdSurge, and it is titled, "Are Schools and EdTech Companies Ready for the Digital Accessibility Deadline?" The answer is no. Moving on.
They are not. Move on.
Do they know about it?
I'm pretty sure this article was the first time many didn't even heard about. Wait, what?
That's my exactly.
So, I have brought this up many a time here that our university is like deep into this, and we are committed. Our leadership says we're all in. We are going to do this by 2025, which by my clock is not that far away from today.
It's like right now?
Yeah, and so we're in the throngs of this whole thing, in the digital side of it, and what that means, focusing on that web piece, and it is all hands on deck. Everything is getting broken down. Like, it is kind of wild how this is kind of spinning out, and it's lots of resources, but I can't imagine smaller schools and other institutions are kind of even aware of what's about to happen when all this kind of goes through. And so our show of hands, do you have a concerted effort around the horn here of your school actually taking this in and actually making any changes because of it?
Yes.
Sure. Okay.
That's about as far as we got. So
I am sure that there are discussions at some level that we're going to have to address this at some time. And yet, no, yes, no.
Hopefully the person who comes behind me and comes and takes this job later on is going to be the one who deals with it. Is it
after
more
they
along those
fire me,
lines?
it'll be that person's problem.
Right.
Yeah, I think we're probably hoping we're in the school size that gets to wait till 2027, not the 2026 school size.
Is this done by size?
There are two different deadlines based upon how big your school is. So
yeah. I guess, do we want to talk about what this actually means or what it is first?
Yeah, tell us,
Put some
Justin.
Explain it to us,
context
Justin. Yeah, what's going on?
I don't know. Mark, you're the one who brought it up to me, and we have an ADA expert on our thing. So why don't you all explain it? I'm going to butcher it if I explain it.
Okay. I will tell it from the vantage point where we were looking at it here. And then it's quasi what you see in this article for those links in the show notes. Our stance is anything that's web delivered has to be completely accessible. Full stop. Right? So that's everything from web pages, any content that's going to be generated, created in the name of teaching and learning, and hosted, all must be accessible and meet all the guidelines. Our state went all in on this, and they are saying we want all the institutions to also follow suit. So any public events, everything across the board has to meet this criteria if there's a web element involved. Right? Larry,
I think it's
you're
not just web. I think it's any sort of digital element.
Yes,
digital content.
So even if I'm displaying it locally, it has to be fully accessible for screen readers and all the
and
rest.
that's where our like immediate interest is, like in that domain. But our university is kind of coming in through that web first philosophy. So we have like 30,000 web pages and all this links and all this content they're unraveling right now because it's a big lift. And so what does that look like? We know full well that we're going to be next up to bat here. And we're going to have to figure this out as well in the public venues and those spaces. And so what does this look like? So we're kind of hanging out, just kind of waiting and kind of getting some guidance to find out which way it's going to go. But we know we have to start making moves. And surprise, spoiler alert, this is not going to be free. It's going to take time and money to get this right. And so therein lies the mystery. So where are the resources coming from? How much energy, who's doing what? And this is going to be an addition on top of everything that's already being done with your normal jobs. This is going to be a hat we will all have to wear.
So will the 4x3 PowerPoints be compliant before they are widescreen, or is it going to happen at the same time?
We're just going to stretch them. Stretch them out, paste that language on there. No.
Yeah, I think, and the way I look at this, and what kind of concerns me also is that two things. One, that the onus is on the institution, whether it's K-12, whether it's college, or whatnot. And so that, fine, everything within their purview they can control. So to Mark's point, any web page, any digital content that's coming out of classrooms or whatever, right? You can handle that because it's within your ecosphere.
Can you?
What? Okay,
let's see. That's look. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and say you can. Yeah.
Let's just say that you can. What concerns me and what I think is going to be one of the biggest hangups here are all of those contracts with providers that you're using for the math programs you're using for, I'm just throwing examples out, but we know they're out there, and we know that there's some of these private entities who sell content from publishing houses, from whatever, that are going to or may not be so efficient to come up to this. Well, you've already signed a contract, and this is where the pricing comes in. So if the onus is on the institution to provide all of these things, but the contract, the service provider, is not, oh my, this just starts getting into this really horrible cycle of you're at fault, no, you're at fault, no, here's my lawyer, no, there's your lawyer, and there's this other lawyer.
It actually is a strategy, though. Like what you're talking about is actually part of the strategy where we're saying, well, what can we control? What are our known knowns and what are our unknowns? And then anything where that contract is involved, we're having to lean and say, and by the way, if you would like to continue taking money from the institution, you're going to have to meet this guideline. What is your plan? We're not going to develop it for you. If you want to continue to play, please meet this criteria. So there's a whole team of experts and legalese just kind of untangling whatever that looks like, because the contracts are very wide and far-reaching and kind of have wedged themselves into a lot of different services.
The thing that always bothers me, I'm a big advocate for making sure that we find the right solution for the right need. And one of the things that bothers me is that they're trying to do all of them. And I'm like, man, you're not going to hit all of them. You can't. So where does the onus start and stop? So I, as much as an advocate I am for this, I'm also like, man, this is too ubiquitous. This is, what do we do? And maybe that's where you're at, right? It's like, what do we do? How do we get all of them?
We do. It's those two words that are associated with this is what? Best effort, right? Is that?
There's a lot of that. Yeah, you're not wrong. Like, do the best you can. And I actually like that it's very broad and ominous and like, holy Christ, there's no way we're going to be able to do this. Great. That gives us all something to then say, okay, well, what does that mean? It's a good disruptor, and I like that it's so large because it's going to change everything, and we have to have the conversation. If it was just little bits and pieces, it'd be litigated out and blah, 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 but this is so big, there's probably some capacity for some litigation to come in here, but they're still going to be left with a big chunk that you're going to have to figure out.
Yeah.
Are there going to be a need for like hiring more internal ADA auditors? Because
we already are. Like, we're already building out our ADA team. My bigger concern is for the next year to year and a half. I don't think most of our schools have enough instructional designers to change all the learning objects that have been in these courses forever. Because the majority, like back when I used to work at Butler, I had theater and dance instructors who had used the same content for 20 years. And they were upset when I took the VCR away. Like, how are you going to rebuild every course to be compliant in the next year?
Take it offline, in person only.
Right? You'll flag the ones that are, and the ones that are your champions, and they've moved that way, and that there's your model, right? So now we have something to assess against. And I think it's going to be ugly, right? And then we're not even getting into like the technology is going to mean into these live things. We're clearly looking at just in this vantage point of through the web. And it was the one that I think a lot of our IT departments are saying, yeah, that's our stuff. We at least can come in there. We're not even at the conversation. We're talking all the different pieces that are bolt onto that. So, Chris, and you're doing everything, right? You're by the book to the T, everything.
We've already done all this. We're good.
You're
That's
done.
what I figured, yeah. I mean, yeah. That's
the
why I assume
challenge
you're
here
so
is-
quiet.
and
Yeah.
They just cut the cord in Wyoming. They're just like, nope, no more.
We
no
don't have
more
electricity.
internet.
Person
Boom.
class only. No content delivery via web.
Well, Justin, to that point, in person or not, you have to still have
you still have other
captions,
regulations,
descriptions, all
yeah.
that stuff on there. So I think, and Mark, you had mentioned like how broad and wide ranging this is. I think the advantage there is this is a kind of, it's almost like that carrot and stick sort of model. This is the big stick.
Beating
You
with a
have to
big
do all
carrot.
this.
Yeah, it's like,
Well,
here you
it's
go.
never a big carrot. This is the big stick. You have to do all this stuff. And if you only accomplish 25%, that's 25% more than you had previously. So that's a win regardless. So any amount you do is a win, whether or not, we get everything set up the right way with descriptive audio and captions and all the rest, screen reader compliant and everything. Probably not, certainly not in the next year or two or three, but hey, if it takes 10 years, we're making progress and improving that learning experience for people who use those. So
Would
it's
love
a
to
win-win,
chime in
but like
on
it's a
that.
minor win.
Chime
Go
in.
ahead.
Get in here.
So I
Please do.
appreciate that you referred to me as an ADA expert / bunker dweller. And I am, as it pertains to assistive listening, right? That's what I do. But you make so many solid points when you talk about using the resources you have to do the broadest amount of good with what you have available to you right now. That is the start. The ADA law, I mean, for assistive listening, it's updated one time since 91, which, by the way, it only went into effect in 91. That's kind of heinous. That's so recent, right? That we would begin to accommodate folks. But it's only been updated one time. And I can tell you that was in 2010, went into effect in 2012. I still once a month post a webinar where I have to educate folks around this, and they're learning it for the first time. They are still clinging to the old requirements. And in some ways, when they make these adjustments, they help a broader amount of people. In other ways, they can never do enough good, and you're going to leave out someone who wants to be accommodated differently. I get asked, captions get conflated with assistive listening all the time. When we have captions, well, generally hard of hearing people can hear. They just need a little help. They're not trained to rely on captions. So ADA law is written to do the broadest amount of good for the broadest amount of folks, and they never nail it. I mean, they're rarely asking my opinion on how to do it better, or I'm sure the same thing goes for these digital changes. But my advice always when I'm in the field is do the best you can with the resources you have now, because first of all, there's not ADA police roaming the streets in most states. It's going to be someone had a need, they were not accommodated, they filed a complaint. Right? You've already got accessibility teams in place. You've already got ADA experts in place. It's kind of like assistive listening. There's all these requirements about how to meet the letter of the law. But if you just have a transmitter and a couple of receivers, the chances that someone is going to not be accommodated, or, you've got 10 receivers and 11 people check them out that day, that's pretty rare. You're doing what you can with the resources you have. That's the best place to start. And in my experience, I've seen it take years and years and years to get where you need to be. Technology is going to change again by the time you get where you need to be. But if you can show that you're doing your best, I'll get off my soapbox now, but you said a few things that I use every month in my webinars to just start somewhere.
You have to, right? And I think that's why I like it being just as big as it possibly can be, because let's get something. Let's start somewhere, pick something out of this and start moving. And because even if you do one thing, you'll be better off than you were yesterday when you were doing nothing, right? And so it's in the name of greater good. So we have to move forward and let's do it. Let's make a splash. Let's jump in and figure it out, right? And so that's why I actually felt it was awesome that we had this giant thing come, because now we have something new we have to now take into account that can change the way we're looking at things. So,
and as far as your content vendors, may the best man win. They know about the gap. They've been thinking about it longer than you guys have probably, and they know that it's their competitive advantage to do something about it. So,
cool. Well, this article has a little bit of sneak preview in it. If you want to kind of dig into that a little more, so there's some good links in there for those in the show notes, in the comments. Check that out to kind of see it. Maybe it's the first time you ever heard it. Get more comfortable with that, because I think it's coming.
Well, something that you brought up to us, Mark, is that maybe states add on to the federal stuff, right? So maybe kind of describe an example of that happened to you to make it even more strict based upon your region or state.
Well, I think it was the state came in and said, yeah, we're going to do all this stuff, right? And so that was state agency. We're going to take all this in, be really aggressive about how we're going to do it, and effectively ask all the large organizations and employers within the state, hey, we'd like you to sign on to this and commit to it at a leadership level. And so it becomes part of the mission, right? And so now that's how it gets into the actual evolution and actually getting down to happening. It's one thing to post, hey, we want you to all do this, but then you don't have leadership and buy-in and resources committed to doing it. It never happens. This is how you commit to actually making it happen. So the state was aggressive. Our organization was very aggressive. And so now it's part of our actual mission, and we're going to go all in and put the resources we need behind it. And there are resources out there in the name of this, right? It's not being asked, like, figure it out, go into the couch cushions and put it all together and figure it out. Like, there are real resources. Be intentional. What can you do? What can't you do? What's keeping you from doing? What are your limitations? And start getting creative. Like, you can get resources in the name of getting this done. So anyway, I think it's a good spot. Let's take a pause here, because I think we want to come back and jump into like this larger piece of this. And I think this is a good tiptoe into this water because I think it's so vast in the whole ADA landscape that I want to get into some of the specifics and some of the stuff that Mikey you have to share with us in the larger piece of this. Fair? Chris,
Sounds good.
what kind of fancy advertisement can we?
I was just looking at this like, do I
right
switch some of these up based on our discussion here? So yeah, I'll save
Let's
that
see.
one. We'll do this one.
Surprise
Let's take
us.
a quick break, come back, and we'll.
We have an ADA commercial.
We don't. So
okay.
Justin, write that real quick. I'll jump
Yeah,
on.
I'll work on that.
Okay, back in a moment.
Are you tired of those outdated digital signage displays cluttering up your campus? Do you wish there was a way to keep your events fresh and exciting month after month? Introducing Independent Amalgamated Analog Digital Signage, the only service that delivers brand spanking new informational posters right to your doorstep every single month. It's the beginning of the month, and what do you get? A shiny new poster with all the latest event details ready to dazzle your colleagues. Not only will our posters keep your events looking fresh, but they'll also keep you on your toes. Because our posters are printed weeks in advance, the information may not always be correct. But hey, who needs accuracy when you've got style? With Independent Amalgamated Analog Digital Signage, you'll never have to worry about boring clip art, stock video footage, and converted PowerPoint files again. Join the madness today and watch your workplace transform into a poster paradise. Independent Amalgamated Analog Digital Signage. Because who needs accuracy when you've got style?
So good.
I
Stack
think
These
our
posters look fantastic.
They look great.
Love them.
Speaking of so good, I think our star wipe effect like walked up during the commercial. Did you all see that, or is that just
That
me?
was you. That was
Nope.
That's
That was
probably
you,
just
man.
me.
I had
was you,
beautiful
bud.
star wipe the entire time.
Really?
Glorious.
It's Chris's
My
favorite
1985
effect ever.
PC is just
The only
hard to render
effect you
that.
want. Star wipe everywhere.
We will never
All
have
right,
any
so-
other effect.
I am 100% learning the term star wipe for the first time. I would have guessed it meant something completely different. Thought it was like a Diddy party thing. I don't know.
It can be.
so
I
upset.
mean,
It could be.
it could be both. It could be multiple things.
Start this right now. Let's go.
Apologize.
All right, so let's talk about let's continue on our overall discussion of or topic of assistive technologies. Let's talk about assistive listening systems and some interesting developments in the realm of Bluetooth. Bluetooth, specifically Bluetooth low energy audio assistive listening systems or broadcast, I guess. What?
It sounded
I
like
think that's what it says
sounded
on the
like
website.
an energy drink. This is Bluetooth low energy.
I'm not the
low
one who
energy
named it,
drink.
so
I'm excited. I'll
you go
buy
tell them.
1,000 right now.
Well,
From
Let's do it.
Listen, the Bluetooth
So-
low energy drink.
For when you're only a little
a-
bit tired.
Yeah, a bit of background on this discussion. So we covered during our Infocom wrap up, kind of like the best things we saw on the show floor, and one of those items was from Listen Technologies, and it was the new Aura. Is it the RE product, the RE line of Bluetooth transmitter systems? I'm butchering this whole thing, but you know what I'm getting at.
keep digging.
correct us.
You're in the
I'll just
hole.
keep-
You'll,
I'll just
you'll
keep
get
digging
out.
on
Yeah,
this
just
thing.
keep digging.
going. You're doing great.
And so then Listen reached out and said, "Hey, that's a great discussion. Can we talk more about what that means?" And we thought, no, we're not going to do that at all. So here we are.
Turned us down.
So,
No, we like our description
So-
of it.
yeah,
Great.
so
You're doing
we're
great.
joined today. Mikey Schaefer. She is not a dynamic paradigm representative, or maybe she is in her spare time. I don't know. So Mikey is the senior sales director from Listen Technologies to tell us all about the RE Bluetooth systems and why we think this has the success written all over it. Because I think we all have IR, RF, T-coil. We've got all these different systems, the Wi-Fi ones, and it's just, but they all come with challenges. And they're just so the Bluetooth one, I think, because that's the request I'm getting on my campus, is people just want to use the hearing aids they already have, or even just their headphones for just a little amplified boost, and they don't want to have to self-identify by wearing something else. And so Bluetooth using the devices they're already carrying with them, that's a fantastic solution. So
This is a
Mikey,
game
welcome to the
changer. This is
madness, and thanks for putting up with our nonsense for the whole show.
tell us how we're all doing it wrong, and we need to
Yeah.
I'm a huge
looking at
fan of
things in
nonsense,
new way.
first of all. I have been looking for new friends, and if they're the super variety, that's even better. So I appreciate even being here. Do not apologize.
Welcome
to me.
aboard.
In fact, that convoluted description is exactly where we should start, because I think everyone's excited. They're right to be excited. it's a lot of word salad to even, there's like a preamble before I can even get to the technology of why we're even here, right? So why we're here is because Bluetooth is making some changes. So we know Bluetooth technology, we know it, we love it, we know the logo, we all use it. It does exactly what it was built to do, replace a cable, right? But folks always have wanted it to do many, many, many more things, especially assistive listening. If you go to the Bluetooth website, you're going to see assistive listening all over it. And a year ago, you were seeing all these case studies from hearing aid manufacturers and manufacturers like us begging for some new protocols. So let's start there. BLE, Bluetooth Low Energy, is it's a new version of Bluetooth. Classic Bluetooth's not going away. We all want to have private phone calls and listen to our speakers. Bluetooth Low Energy, though, is going to answer some of the issues it had. So audio quality wasn't built for live audio, right? It doesn't know what to do with that live audio handoff. It knows what to do with the phone call. That introduces latency when we're talking about live applications, right? Anytime we're making that jump from Bluetooth to our hearing aid or anything else, there's some latency added. It's huge battery drain, right? Most people are listening on small devices, so it's going to kill that battery. The range is pretty minimal, 30 feet maybe with great Bluetooth, and then it's a one-to-one pairing, right? There's all these limitations for how we'd like to use it versus how it's being used. So Bluetooth Classic will still exist. It will be improved upon by Bluetooth Low Energy. You'll hear the term Auracast, though. That is a branded term within the Bluetooth special interest group. So what that is the broadcast protocol with that BLE now offers. So you will see a logo. It'll be like Intel Inside. You'll see it slapped over everything at the next Infocom, right? That's the broadcast protocol that BLE offers. And we are part of the Bluetooth special interest group. Other manufacturers like us are. We've all been there for a very long time. They've been working on this for like 10 years. And why that's important is because when you are broadcasting, it is very important that we all agree to certain protocols to work within so that all of our equipment can work together. The Bluetooth group imagines this to be, the next thing. I mean, their ads are like, hey, I'm riding the bus and I have my sweet jams and I just want to broadcast that to everyone here that wants to hear it. I mean, we're already in that
pirate radio show. That's exactly what I thought of when I saw it.
I don't know that's
the
gap I need filled, but in general, in the consumer sense, yes, that's what they're thinking. For what we do, it's perfect for assistive listening. And that's the direction that most assistive listening, whether that's hearing aids or kind of broadcasts like what we do, we're investing heavily in that. And so because we're all building from the same set of parameters, and I want to be clear, those parameters they're still working on them. They're still being developed right now as we speak. That means that when we introduce our transmitter and our receivers, and the next phone you buy or the next hearing aids you buy or earbuds, they'll be compatible, right? We're going to work together, which blows this whole conversation out of the water. We're building towards a world that is accessible for everyone, and not just hard of hearing folks, but everyone can join in. We all have examples of places where it's just hard to hear. The airports, right, come to mind. So that's why that Auracast protocol is important. And then Ori is our product name within it. And I got to back this truck up there, if that's okay, and mention that that we have co-developed it with Ampetronic. So for anyone out there who doesn't know Ampetronic, they are also an assistive listening manufacturer in the space of inductive hearing loops, which I'm sure you guys all have at least one on your campus, right? They are actually our sister company now. We are part of this is perfect for the topic today. We are part of Sisterhood. The company is called Alvida, is the broader company, and it is a group of like-minded accessibility manufacturers. So yes, we're there. Contacta, also an inductive loop manufacturer, is there. But so there's audio companies, but there's also evacuation chairs, three-wheeled bicycles, all manner of accessibility products that we can work together, not work together. When it's complementary and helpful, then we do that. And in this case, it made so much sense. Both Ampetronic and Listen, we are full to the brim with very, very smart people. We put our little nerd brains together and developed this product and brought it to market very, very quickly. So we're very proud of that, but I don't want to leave them out of this conversation. They are a big part of what we do in general. So yes, at time of launch, we'll have a transmitter, we will have receivers. The transmitter and the receivers will work with other Auracast products in the end. But again, we're in the early days of this actually being a bring your own device scenario. So we probably do want to spend some time on that at some point today.
Well, I think that's like Shangri-La for folks. You just walk in with the thing you already have. Not you're buying a new thing or having to go get one from somewhere else. And I think as much as we get into these weird scenarios where you don't want to have people relying on their device all the time, but yet it's still that thing that people seem to want to be able to do. So this aligns really, really well with that philosophy. I just quickly though, before we go on, like, are most folks on this call doing like one of these protocols? Not the Auracast one, but like, are you doing like RF? Are you doing IR? Are you mixing and matching those around? You just kind of pick one? Okay.
Yeah, I usually
We're
stick
all
with.
well. Go ahead.
I usually stick
Every
with
one of you is
RF.
100% compliant. I'm confident.
Yeah, I stay
for
away
sure.
from Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I tend to go more towards IR and RF and lean towards more of the RF side normally.
Really?
Yeah.
I lean more toward IR just because it's easier. Like
Yeah.
I put that in a room, I don't have to worry about it.
100%. And you know who else it's easier for is your students. Just because they just walk into a room and that audio is secure to the room. So
Right.
maybe it's not, high stakes boardroom conversations, but the fact that it's secure to the room means they never have to change a channel. They just walk into the room and it connects. So for them, that's great. With RF, I mean, it's a very simple way to do it too, but the assumption is that they're not all going to be turned on at the same time, right? Otherwise, you'll very quickly run out of RF space. But
It's lovely coordinating that. It's
Yeah.
absolute.
That's
It
the
is
other
a
thing
treat
is
to have
if
to
you
go
have
through and get all those rooms perfectly.
I set them all to
separated.
channel 1. It's fine. Just do that.
infrared has a bad, historically people, experience dropouts and things like that. We've personally solved that at Listen, but it is really the easiest way to do multiple spaces, even divisible spaces. Our receivers are going to pick up the strongest signal, so it's pretty easy. So if you're doing IR, don't feel bad about that just because Auracast exists. The truth is, every conversation that is initiated by Auracast with a higher education facility in general, and every facility starts out there and ends up talking about the pros and cons of all of the technologies, because what we're really trying to do is solve the challenges you guys have at your venue and the person who is trying to benefit from it. And that's not the same across the board.
Yeah, something
You are
brought
right.
up.
I mean,
Go ahead.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, we spend a lot of time talking about the bring your own device capability, which is super important. I dream of working myself right out of a job. It'll probably be before I'll retire, before the world is this accessible, you guys. But, my husband's hard of hearing. We benefit and use our products every day. But so I really sincerely mean that. If we're talking about accessibility, we want accessibility for everyone. We want people to listen the way they want to listen. But ADA law will not catch up with that anytime soon. Again, updated one time for assistive listening in however many years. So that receiver requirement is going to follow you guys around for a long, long time. The difference when you're using bring your own device stuff, though, is you can feel really good that it's getting used, because folks do have a receiver in their pocket, specifically for Wi-Fi now, eventually for Auracast very soon.
Well,
I
and it
mentioned
helps
this
with that universal access too, because they don't have to self-identify. Like as soon as I saw that at Infocom, that's what really got me excited.
That's yes, exactly. I think that's the benefit of this, and the more that even my dad started wearing. He reached the age where he has to now wear hearing aids, and he's like, it just connects to my phone, and he's excited.
Blew
I'm
his
like,
mind. He was like, "What?"
Perfect.
Yeah.
And the fact that even maybe the customer that's not a youthful person, and they learn how to do that. It's their device. They know exactly the steps. Step 1, step 2, step 3. They're good to go. Right? There's no searching for what's the Wi-Fi access point for my audio.
And here's the deal.
Where do I have to get the thing? It's just turn it on, and
we're
hit
talking
the
about your
beacon.
students, right? They are there every day. They are going to be very familiar with how this works. And hard of hearing folks especially are going to absolutely know how their equipment works.
And it's just
be able to
there.
this.
It's their sound level. It's their device. It's their comfort level. And it's like
Once
Larry
we get
said,
that audio to their
perfect.
hearing aid, it's run through their programming, right? So it's specifically, it's not just a volume issue. It's specifically for their specific hearing loss.
But
So
we're seeing
it
it
is
the other
very
way
cool.
too. We see it like to the instructor. We have instructors who are hard of hearing. They're asking to like leverage the very similar technologies, and we're like, whoa, we weren't even prepared for that conversation yet, but here we are
We've
trying
done
to
a few
figure
of
out how
those.
to do that, and like
Yep.
it works, right? But I think we're actually going to see even more of that moving forward. Like it's not just the students in the audience, but it's actually people that are presenting that need that same technology access.
So you mentioned this earlier. We brought up security and some cons about it. So what are some things that we need to be aware of if we're, because all of this sounds great, and I'm trying to find the con. Maybe it's security. Is there a way to do that, or what are some negative things about
Yeah,
this?
so there are ways to do that. Let's start at the top. They're not negatives. It's just
No
setting
negatives?
our
Okay.
expectations.
Okay.
at-
Here's my credit card. Just take it.
Yeah, take my
No, there's
money
You're
right
in.
now.
pros and cons of everything, but I wouldn't. Negative. But, we need to talk about timing. We need to talk about the priority of the campus. Is the priority tomorrow, bring your own device, or at the end of the year when we should be shipping? Is that the priority? Or are you talking about, is the priority, hey, in the next 5 years, I don't want to redo this system, so we're looking for long-term, bring your own device. Those are two different scenarios. At time of launch, your students are not going to have, primarily, they're not going to have Oracast-enabled devices. We need to wait for those to come to market. Timeline, the next phone you buy will be enabled. The next earbuds you buy will be enabled. We traditionally cycle those every 2 years, right? Hearing aids, that's a much longer adoption rate. They exist on the market today. I've seen them. My husband's hearing aids were $9,000. So I will not just be running out and replacing them. I'm going to wait till there's venues in the area where we can use them, right? So it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing. Usually that's the turnover, 4 to 7 years for hearing aids, right? So that adoption will be faster in the US because our hearing aid market is highly driven by selling the newest, coolest thing. But worldwide, other national health systems give out hearing aids with T-coils everywhere else in the world. So it's going to take a little longer there. So, and then once that happens, there's the learning curve you talked about how to connect, right? When we deliver over Wi-Fi, we know the app. It's our app. It's going to be the same for everyone. All they need to know is what network to join, right? In this case, folks are going to have to learn their own products, right? They're going to have to say, this is how my particular phone and my particular earbuds connect. So one of the things that's still, we got to see what gets brought to market is, how do I choose a channel? Let's say I blow your minds today and you install, every classroom on your campus has a solution like this. That's a lot of channels, right? We ran into it with Wi-Fi. Nobody wants to open an app and scroll through 100 channels. That's why we introduced the beacons for Wi-Fi. So when I get into the room, it's just like infrared. I just join the channel, right? That was for higher ed. This is going to run into the same situation where you need an assistant. So yes, while there's chipsets available in phones and they just need to push that update, the truth is there needs to be, their idea is long-term, no app in between. But there has to be an intermediary to choose a channel on your hearing aid. That's probably going to be a hearing aid app. For phones, the point is that the phones that exist right now, like the Samsung, like we were showing at Infocom, it's a phone on the same platform as their hearing aids, right? So they're going to talk to each other, and the phone is going to say, these are the channels that are available, and the hearing aid is going to scan for those and connect, or the earbud will scan for those and connect. There's still an assistant somewhere in there. Sennheiser just released it's just an update for their earbuds, but they had to release an app because guess what? There's no assistant on Apple yet. And they're going to do it. Apple will absolutely do this. They're not going to tell you or I. We will all find out from a stage. They'll be wearing a black turtleneck and making a big announcement, right? That's how we're going to know what that looks like and how it's going to interact with our system. We know it'll interact. I can't tell you what it's going to look like to open your Apple phone. But the idea is that just like Wi-Fi, we walk into a space, our phone says, hey, there's Wi-Fi here. It'll be similar to that. You walk into a space, if your Oracast is enabled, there's some channels here. Would you like to listen? But in general, your earbud is going to be scanning. Your phone's going to be telling it what channel to join.
See,
right?
It's interesting because I think that's happening now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's a far future thing
no.
because I think it's pretty
It
normal.
is.
Like if anybody's who's gotten a modern pair of earbuds that have like the hear through mode and the EQ and the tunings, I think we're already accustomed to kind of using that.
Yep.
And we're the part where this becomes really interesting to me, I think that's more normal. The students I see now, if I go pick 9, 10 random students, they're probably all going to come to my office with earbuds in their
Yeah,
ears
absolutely.
right now. And so I think this may not even be an ADA or an accessibility thing at the end of the day. This may just be for everybody. And I think
is
that's
for
where I'm
everybody.
really interested in.
That's the
how this
direction
goes.
it's
Yeah.
going, right? I mean, imagine you're cruising through an airport and everybody struggles to hear at an airport. There is not one of us on this call who can hear gate audio, right? And cruising through airports are already doing this. Airports are already
exactly
doing this
what
with
that was,
Wi-Fi, but when it will be prolific, we will all be there. We will all have a device to listen to gate audio. Accessibility is so much further. Thank you. Than just those who identify as assistive listening. I mean, the
So is
applications
this-
are endless. Not only, and also you're delivering multiple channels. You've got your audio description, translation. I mean, you name it. You are building an accessible platform into your campuses, and your demographic specifically is absolutely going to know how to use their technology.
So in 5 or
This
10
is a
years,
conversation I have with houses of worship where grandma wants to
yes.
use Oracast, right? That's going to take some work on everybody's part to make sure everyone knows how to join. But like I said, earbuds and phones, that's short term. This time next year, we'll all have it.
so in 5 or 10 years, everybody's walking around with headphones in their ears. Like, is this the death of
They're doing it now.
speakers and amps?
That's now.
Oh,
man.
don't
That's
worry,
not
you
It's
five
can
like
get
years.
we're
everyone on
not
the
going to
bus
put
know
any
what
more
you're
sound
listening to.
systems in. We're just all going to have.
I've been making this call for like
I do
years now.
think
This
it's
is what
going
we
to
were
be
gonna see.
reduced.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of places
like
where
walking
it's
to the
reduced.
movie. It's just visual, like it used to be black and
I
white.
see it
and-
monetized, right?
Yeah.
Called a
Like,
silent disco, Justin. Get with it.
Exactly.
Silent
I
disco.
can't get into whatever Taylor Swift concert. Like, that's cool, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
But all of these venues have the village outside of the venue where people hang. They can, maybe they monetize
Professional
the stream.
tailgating.
That's the other thing is there's high quality streams, right? Assistive listening lends itself to mono, right? And there's access to high quality streams. Of course, the receivers need to be able to access that. That's the thing. That's the rub. You're going to set up your facility and you're going to know what your range is. And we know what our range is with our receivers. But when Amazon is flooded with really cheap earbuds with this access, the antenna, it's going to be different for everyone. They're just like it is for Bluetooth, right? Their experience will vary. But sorry, what?
Mileage may vary. So
Your mileage may vary. So for a manufacturer, yeah, that can. It's really hard to tell you what our specs are at this point. They are actually literally in the desert right now testing, so that's cool. Utah, we have a lot of desert, so we test a lot of audio there. But,
Just seeing how far you can send that stuff, like 7 miles. Let's go.
Tell them to keep
So-
walking.
clear air.
the truth
Everybody
is,
that flies over is hearing. Do you hear Mikey right now?
Yeah.
we can send it very, very far with our transmitter, our receivers. But again, all that's being hashed out right now in real time with Bluetooth, with, they've got a list on their website where you can see products that have been approved. Plenty of products are out there that have not yet been approved. So they exist, right? They're working towards getting on that website as well. But you'll see in real time, you can follow along. This is happening very, very fast. It's very, very exciting.
that's awesome. By chance, are you guys doing? Is it 2-way or 1-way? Right
One
now?
way right now.
I think it's
okay.
one way, right? That's
Yeah.
the whole point, is to make it low energy, reduce,
Yeah. It's one way.
send it further, right?
Yep.
Well, some of the
To
early
more people,
documentation referred to it as
multicast Bluetooth.
Bluetooth broadcast.
Yeah, multicast Bluetooth.
Yep. And so
Yep. So there's support for multiple channels. There's support for stereo. There's support for multilingual.
Stereo.
And we talked about private, right? Because there are some privacy issues. I mean, someday maybe it will be at every ticket counter, right? Places that it's hard to hear, but there needs to be a rolling encryption key for everybody you talk to at a bank, for example.
Medical offices, right?
Yeah. So for our purposes of the conversation today, you can absolutely encrypt a channel. And when you're using our receivers, easy peasy, you just tell the receiver it has permission, right? So for your boardrooms, for if the professor is like, I really don't want this reaching everywhere. Our receivers will just you can get a permission for it, and they don't have to put in a password. But again, there will be an encryption key for everybody else using their own device. Can't put an encryption key in on your hearing aid, so that's where that assistant comes in. And whether that works for your purposes or not, I mean, that is literally why we have the beacons for Wi-Fi, we've always been able to password protect that, but it's just, you may not want to do that every time a class rolls over. So
yes, for that encryption, like what does that look like for management of that? So if you have encryption keys on your device for these classrooms, and then you every semester that changes over, would you see that encryption key staying the same, or are we talking like super secure? Somebody's going to have a lot of overhead.
It's totally up to you
change
guys. It's done within the software per channel. So you guys can determine that. It's not rolling. It's not like every classroom you'd be able to just quickly, change that password up. But yeah, it's up to you how often that happens and what that encryption key is. But again, with the receivers, you just designate the rooms they're allowed to listen to, right? And there's actually quite
similar
a few
to how we do it
settings
now, where we set the channel for the receiver for the transmitter in the room, and if someone picks it up and walks down the hall with it, and they say, "Hey, this doesn't work anymore," it's like, well, yeah, because it's set to that one back there, not to where you are. So, I mean, that's a general management thing. I don't see any way around that. I think the real advantage here is that, in theory, we don't have to worry as much about transmitters and receivers. Well, we have transmitters, not receivers anymore, because that's what people are wearing in their ears already, or they're bringing them with them, or they're using the device they already have. Eventually, when a year or two maybe down the road, that kind of management of devices is reduced to the point where it's just, hey, come in and
like I said,
here's the channel in the room.
I don't see ADA recalculating the requirements anytime soon. They didn't do it for Wi-Fi. They're not going to. They're not highly motivated to do that, but they are all over your campus for everything else. So, and I have seen a Justice Department audit go down at university campuses, and it's brutal, right?
What triggered that? A complaint? A complaint triggered that?
Yeah. No, in this particular case, it was they were facilitating courses for the Department of Justice, right? And they were like, oh, probably take a look at this. But it was, for them, it was not just us. It was like bathroom doors, door width, curb height. It was a lot. Now, what I'll say is, yes, there is a really hefty fine associated, but it's not really like we're just going to waltz on in and give you a $75,000 fine. It's like, we're going to work with you, and try and rectify this. If you don't solve this, then we will double your fine next time. Like this campus, had been working on resolving all of their ADA issues for like 6 years, right? So that's the point, is they want you to do your best. And they want you to. I mean, it is a big deal. I'm not trying to say it's not a big deal. You will need receivers in your wheelhouse somewhere. But I have seen an example of that, and I'm happy to share more off air. But it can be brutal. So do your best. But the thing is what you can tell those who are helping you pay for this is a technology that will actually get used. No one ever says, how often is somebody using your handicap bathroom? But they absolutely ask that question when they are forced to buy hundreds of receivers that aren't getting used. So knowing that you're investing in technology that, while right now you're going to need receivers, but overall it's going to get used and can be used in a variety of ways outside of assistive listening, it's a pretty easy sell.
I think just the whole concept here on this ORCAS, it's been a while since we have seen like something be like buzzy. This is a bit buzzy.
It is.
It's very buzzy. Like we hear a lot about
is,
AV over IP and blah, 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 but in the hallways and the water coolers of the AV world, this RCast is being talked about. And I think this is, and to be excited about this kind of technology, I think is kind of cool, because it's different. It's totally outside of what we're talking about every day. In the fact that I see posts on it, like on Reddit. Like, when's the last you think you're going to see an 88 post on Reddit about a technology like this? And we were talking about it after InfoComm, and we've seen it from like ETC posts. Like, people are actually excited about this, and I didn't really see it coming, and all of a sudden it came out. I was like, wow, this is a kind of a big deal.
Well, and what's something that's very, very new for us is Bluetooth doing our marketing, right? They are out there hustling every day at consumer shows. And so the end users that are hearing about it and hoping it solves a challenge that they have, I mean, it's insane. We can't even keep up with it. And so this is the first time we've had other evangels. We have influencers, like, they're not ours. They just want to influence this conversation so that when they go to the facility they want to be accommodated at, it's what they want is there. So it is, you're absolutely right. This is completely new for us too, to have this much enthusiasm around a technology for assistive listening. But that's the thing, is it's not just assistive listening anymore.
Mm-hmm. And I think this excitement paired with kind of what we talked about in that first segment, like that's a good cross section to actually get some action to make the world a better place. I think that's the timing couldn't have been better. I think it's just serendipitous.
Yeah. Like I said, there's still things to be worked out. How many channels can we really push into place before it's too crowded? What's the minimum range we're going to expect from bring your own device? Questions around security as that evolves. It's evolving. It's pretty cool. Very cool. But that is why, because it's constantly evolving, that's why it's so important that we're all building from the same set of rules, right? So we can all play in the same sandbox, which is also new for manufacturers. Right?
Thinking ahead a little bit, are there any discussions about multi-language support within channels within this technology, I would assume?
Yeah, we support multilingual. Mm-hmm.
I figured it would be a part of this as well.
Oh yeah, that's a big part of everything we do now. You'll see it in the Wi-Fi product we just launched last month. That is a huge factor that's built into it now, where if you're streaming more than one language, rather than having lots of channels, they're able to just choose the language that they want and have it served up to them. So personalized audio and multilingual support you'll see that continue to trend for sure.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
The whole thing's exciting. Yeah.
I think one of the things that I like the most about this is because it's part of it comes from the Bluetooth Special Interest Group. It is an open standard. It's a licensed standard through Bluetooth, but anybody doing Bluetooth, it's there. And we're seeing it from multiple manufacturers. And you're working on it at Listen Technologies. We're seeing it from Shure and Sennheiser have it in their devices. The chipsets that are in the newest phones support it, even though it's not lit up yet, but it's already in a lot of hardware that's in people's pockets already. So it's just a matter of like getting all those pieces in place, and then all of a sudden, probably over a period of relatively short period of about 6 months, we're going to just start seeing that roll out and show up everywhere, almost out of nowhere. Like, where did this all come from? It's like, well, this has been worked on for the last several years, but it's all all these different manufacturers and software developers and all these people working on it all at different aspects of it, but it's all going to come together and be just something that's available
all at once,
which is going to be fantastic. Because
I think the hardest part there is fantastic. It's going to be a matter of people throw around the term it's Auracast capable, it's Auracast enabled. People are going to have to do their homework to make sure that their devices are going to work together. Because just because it exists there, it still needs to be able to, in many cases, it's capable. It still needs to stream to something that can scan for the Auracast channels, right? So do your homework, but you're right. It is coming. It will be a deluge. And one of the advantages of that is assistive listening is getting harder and harder to facilitate for facilities who are trying to simplify their systems, right? You've got all-in-one bars, and it is an afterthought. Oh, there's no audio out. I'm literally rigging up tabletop mics for people, right? Because they've already bought something.
We've had that discussion.
We might have talked about that before.
Yeah. This was a big thing, and to their credit, Biamp in particular, but the other manufacturers who make these that they don't have the analog out, and then Biamp pivoted very quickly, and they claimed for California requirements. And I pointed out, look, I'm not in California.
Because
I
Chris
need
is going
this
to keep
everywhere.
calling you out until you put it on there.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge chunk of my week is taken up. Well, it's because California, we talked a little
California.
about state
It's California,
rules
yeah.
are a little
We know.
can be more
They're
stringent.
special.
California extends the receiver requirements and ALS requirements into every meeting space. So corporate meeting spaces, all the tiny rooms where you're putting an all-in-one system, we require it.
Yep. And that's what we're seeing here in Oregon.
And
It's that same
courts,
thing.
right? Courts went hybrid. They simplified all their systems, and now no court interpreter can hear. No one who's hard of hearing can hear. They've complicated so many things, and basically it's like they're their equipment because they can't meet the need. And so that is what we're trying to avoid. So it's scary for any manufacturer who sells receivers to be like, yeah, we can play with, and transmitters, we can play with all your stuff. It'll all work. But the point is we're trying to make these spaces accessible.
You see, and that's what I was going to say. It's like what I like about this is that it's because of where Bluetooth has come from and where it is today, just regular Bluetooth, right? Almost everything everything talks to everything. I mean, it may be a pain in the ass to get them to sync, but they eventually will probably do it. So we know manufacturers like to tweak things so that only their thing can talk to their thing, and even though it's the same thing, it can't actually do the same. It's like, no, because it's being used by Googles and Apples and Microsofts and all of a sudden personal devices, consumerish devices, that we might actually get interoperability. There may be some tweaks, right, for security and for encryption, and I get that. But man, how many times have we seen in our industry where it comes out and says, it's AV over IP, it'll work everywhere, unless, of course, you have anything that doesn't start with the letter X, right? Like, come on.
Like
I was trying.
Twitter.
I was trying to be diplomatic and not throw out the normal.
No, to me, like this is in the same way we saw like Dante proliferate and take out. This feels like all
Yes.
that momentum energy, very similar, but in a very, very short time. And I think that's why I'm excited. Like we kind of Dante had this slow roll, but this feels like it's got like hold my beer, watch what's going to happen now. Like that's how this feels. So
That's a better way to say what I was trying to say.
Yeah. Jamie, take all that back.
Everything I said was convoluted and stupid. Just rewind it.
I'm not been listening to you. Mikey, real quick. So to the general topic of ADA, and I know you do a webinar, so I'll let you plug that. But what other resources can higher ed technology managers go to get more informed about this? Because it's going to fall on our shoulders at a certain point to have to figure some of this stuff out. What resources are out there? What should we be looking at?
Yeah. So yes, thank you for the webinar plug. We do those almost monthly. We take breaks in the summer, but we're back at it. It is there's a recorded version on our website. I'm doing the live version this month, and it's brand agnostic. It goes over what ADA says around assistive listening requirements, the technologies that we rely on to meet that, pros and cons. There are pros and cons to all of them. It's worth 1 CTS renewal credit or CTSD. So if that helps anyone out there. But we keep it brand agnostic so that we can have those renewal credits, but happy to answer any questions. It's very, very thorough. It also covers states like California's specific. Theirs is enforced by the building code, so they don't get around it. So we talk about that as well. That's a great place to start. There is a lot of nuance. They leave a lot of vagary. And I think I don't know if it's by design or accidentally they didn't think of some of these scenarios, but there's nuance, and I'm happy to answer specific questions around your situation. There's also information there. There's a white paper on our website. You can go to the Department of Justice and look up all of these references for yourself, and I would recommend looking them up in your state just to make sure. But it's not going to be the fastest or best use of your time. I would just find the references on our website.
yeah, use an AI assistant to summarize that for you.
I would do that maybe, or me. That's fine. Just call me.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I think we're all looking forward to RCAS becoming much more commonly distributed to hopefully address some of our challenges with assisted listening, but just in general, just something that makes it that much more, that much lower. What's that term here? Lower bar of entry for people to use this stuff and just have it out
easier.
There. Easier. That's the word. I want that.
That's
word.
what we use in Kentucky. It's just easier.
Easy-ish. So.
More gooder.
All right. Well,
More gooder.
let's take a quick break and hear about some other more gooder stuff here, and then we're going to come back and talk about automated transcripts and AI transcription summarization services and all that fun stuff, and how well that plays into ADAs. Yeah, that's my take on it too. So, all right.
Do you find yourself trying to connect to all your audio devices, only to find out they speak different languages? Introducing the Audio Bridge widget by Independent Amalgamated, the ultimate all-in-one adapter that makes compatibility issues a thing of the past. Picture this. You've got a Dante microphone array, balanced analog inputs on your DSP, and embedded PCM audio via USB to a laptop. What's a savvy technician to do? With the Audio Bridge widget by Independent Amalgamated, you can bridge the gap between any audio protocol, bit rate, source, or destination. It's like the United Nations of audio adapters. And guess what? For a limited time, we're throwing in every adapter you could ever need. That's right, every single one. Need to convert from RCA to SCART? No problem. Want to go from USB to XLR, unbalanced to balanced and back again? Easy peasy. The possibilities are endless. But wait, there's more. Order now and we'll even throw in a lifetime supply of tangled cables. Say goodbye to that old frustrating knot of cords forever with a brand new mass of twisted, intertwined, and ratty cables. Don't let compatibility issues ruin your groove. Get your hands on the Audio Bridge widget today and let the music play on.
My favorite one.
I have 2 of those Bridgema widgets. They're great.
Those balls of ratted, twisted, ratty cable, excellent. Excellent. They will
High
keep any
quality
door
RAD
open.
cable.
They will keep any door open. You can just wedge it right in there, and it's perfect.
I put them in people's bags when they're not looking, and then they have more cables to deal
They
with.
got
All
more
right,
RAD
so
cables in there.
I throw them at
final
tailgaters.
topic for today: AI transcription, automatic captions. These showed up all of a sudden very quickly. Everyone's doing it. Zoom, Teams, even within Chrome, they'll do it now. It's like, hey, we can show you live captions. We can take the audio, we'll transcribe it, send you meeting notes. First of all,
Yep.
I don't trust that stuff. Secondly, even though they say in perfect environments, it's 97% accurate. I'm like, is it though? And does that really meet the needs for ADA? Because I'm seeing that even internally on my campus when someone says, hey, we need to do transcription. And someone says, well, it already does it. I click this button and we're done. I'm like, that's not really meeting the requirements or the need.
It is an effort. It is not the appropriate amount of energy to do it. Let me save you some headache. No, it doesn't meet.
All right.
It doesn't. So
No.
we talked about it because we do a lot of live events at our organization, and as part of our reading of this new guidance, it is very clear in there that automated services do not meet the criteria, which turns everything on its head because it's not a cheap service to actually just spin out and get going places. And so we have a live event, I have to take down an encoder, a decoder. We got to have somebody standing by off-site with a service contract, ready to go, all the stuff, and get all our audio, our video, and test in there. And it's like a day worth of nonsense for every large event that we go do.
Is it nonsense, though?
No. Like I have to take things out of racks, move them. It's a lot of physical stuff that we're trying to figure out ways to streamline this. And we're very interested in a lot of the automated services. But
I've got your fix, Mark. Here's how you do it. And
Oh,
I've
move to
proved that
Kentucky,
this works.
right?
hold on, let me get,
I don't
You
think
ready?
this-
Yeah,
Write
everything's
this notes
easy
down.
there.
go.
You have to
Cancel
talk
your event.
very slowly
Right.
and pronounce every word like this. And it does a 97% job ish.
That's
But
still
most
not good
people
enough.
don't talk like that, and they talk like Mark, and it's like
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Slow down.
so
probably
they can't
people you
keep
just
up with
hire.
us.
A live
Or they talk like somebody from Kentucky.
Right.
Exactly, and they make up words that and like I don't know what that word is.
But in reality, these are the questions you're going to have to start asking. How are you going to go about making this accommodation? It's easy to say, well, I'm in Zoom, I'm in Teams, I can use that. And that, sure, you can get away with some of that. But in a large venue, a large auditorium, maybe you're not using Zoom. Maybe you're not doing that. You're just doing a PowerPoint or what. How are you going to accommodate this now, right? And it changes.
It's built into PowerPoint, too.
Sure.
It's also
But
terrible.
I
And, you
haven't
know, I
seen
think
a
it's-
lot of good in this domain. I feel like there's a blind spot in industry right now to kind of really have a good utility to do this. Now, we're starting to see some application that can make use of the paid for services, but again, it's software, it's running, it's an overlay, and it's just not clean yet. So,
Well, and it's a broad topic all around because you've got your events, right? You're trying to accommodate a student. Everyone is fine with that being transcribed. But when it's hopping into our meetings and just taking notes, and not everyone has agreed to everything they say, or maybe didn't say, but it misinterpreted, being sent out after the meet, right? We run into that, and businesses like ours, we have to put, ethics in place on how we responsibly use a service like this, which is awesome. I love not taking notes, even if afterwards they're kind of nonsense. It's somewhere for me to start from. I mean, we recently was activated on one of our meetings and then just took over the meetings. Every meetings I didn't even respond yes to. It was taking notes for me. It was saying Mikey's note taker is present in this meeting, right? And then emailing it out to the group. It was like, better not be planning my surprise party in this meeting because now I know, right? But like, I just laughed. I
worse.
put up a transcription while you guys were talking where it was the first meeting it joined without my permission. And it's like a Stephen King novel where it's
That's
like
very invasive.
is there a future where nobody goes to meetings and it's just these transcription services, and somebody
I
just
don't know,
uploads a
because
script and it's like a bunch of Furbies just
So it's a
hanging
bunch
out
of
taking
bots
notes?
It's usually
taking what's
nonsense,
on other
though.
bots
Yeah.
and then telling us what happened, and then we're
Yeah.
like, cool.
Here's
Like that's
mine.
our business work now. Like that's what we do.
This is what it did to me. Sent this out to everyone.
sent
Mikey
it.
expresses confusion and frustration about the note taker, questioning its effectiveness and ability to take accurate notes. And then it goes on and on to explain how I'm trying to turn it off and I'm confused and I don't know how to turn it off. And then it says, both speakers discuss the pros and cons, with Mikey expressing frustration that he does not understand how to remove it.
Oh.
Yeah.
See?
What you're going to get next
And you weren't even
is-
at the meeting? Were you even there?
No, on this one I had joined, and I was
Okay.
really saying the swears, trying to figure out how to turn it off. And
Hey,
it
we
captured all of
noticed
it
you
and
had
then
a
printed it
service
out.
problem.
Yeah, so there's some,
Would you like
know,
to connect with our customer support base?
It's like you sound like you're on a cliff and ready to jump. Is there anything we can help you with? I mean, honestly, and then it started joining all the meetings I actually declined. And then, I mean, so there's some things that we need to get.
I can't be there, but this thing can.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. But you know, as far as your live events, something is always going to be better than nothing. The best thing that happened to my husband in the pandemic was his work became remote. And now he no longer is limited at work by the fact he cannot hear in meetings, right? AI note taker, thank you for it. Is it appropriate for live events where people it's not going to meet the letter of the law.
Right.
It's not going to give them an equivalent experience. It's getting better and better every year. But I'm a huge fan still of hiring the little cart lady that's a really fast typer, because they are also they're putting concepts together for people to understand in real time. But AI, it has a place. It's not going away. It's a helper in a lot of cases. But you're absolutely right. It's not quite there yet for live events.
It's not ready for prime time, and like we struggle with that whole thing. We would love to reduce that cost for people that are doing events and making that accessible right now. And like, not even to mention that we're blending broadcast technologies and presentation technologies and all the headache that goes around with that. Just say interlace versus progressive. If you know it, you know it. You're welcome. So
well, here, I also love, since we're not talking about meeting the letter of the law, you stream it to their own device. That's Wi-Fi or Orcast. Our devices now are capable of taking the audio it's bringing in and transcribing, right? It's getting better and better as well. It's not great. None of it is great, but it's something for people to meet their individual need.
Yep. So yeah, and have any of you all around here, they're in schools, have you had that weird conversation like, oh, we're going to turn on the AI companion and introduce, what does that mean? That there's a lot of risk involved with that. The moment you turn that on and you're going to use that in a class and you have students joining, like, who owns that? Where's that going? Yeah. Who's vetting that? What's your security? Like, so some people just turn it on. Some colleges, boom, it's at every meeting. You see it down there, the students using it, getting their notes. But when you really get into the details of like what's going on there, should you be doing that to begin with? Can you answer that question? Should you be having this data about students and faculty going to the cloud? Yes or no? Like, do you stop and do that? Like, yes, it's neat, and you can get some functionality and get some like capability out of it. But should you be doing that? Like, don't know. And it's questions we all have to ask.
That's the irony I've had with it the whole time, is the folks who have approved this and who I'm seeing use it the most are probably in the meetings that should not be using this. And the ones that really didn't matter don't want any part of it. Like, they're like, no, turn that off. And I'm like, our decision makers who don't want anything published are now sending this out and back. And to Mikey's example, sometimes it just does things. And it surprises me. I don't personally use it. I'm not ready yet, but it's in my environment, and I'm trying to suss out how some of these questions that you guys are asking.
Within a classroom environment, the challenge is anybody can light it up, especially if it's a hybrid class. Yes, the one in Zoom warns people, or the one in Team warns people, but students are savvy, students are clever. You can route the audio to an outboard application and it'll do it that way. And they've been doing that for several years until they started integrating it. So there's people who've been using this sort of transcription back-end system to dump notes into a shared Google Doc almost in real time. It's, like 10 or 12 seconds behind, but it's just dumping notes in there. I've seen that in active use for 2 or 3 years. They didn't ask anybody's permission to do that. Do they really need to? Because then you have that argument of like, well, they're in the room, so they're sharing as part of a public institute. It raises all these questions as far as like, where's this data going and how it's working? And then, how accurate is said notes? If I wasn't able to meet class today and I go look at the notes, are those notes accurate? Is that good enough? And, that's not really replacing the need for an assistive technology if someone needs that. But a lot of them are getting used that way. So I guess, yeah, and something's better than nothing, but is it good enough? And I would argue, no, it's not.
We've gotten several instances lately where tickets have came in from instructors where within Microsoft, you can bring in a lot of these other extra AI tools, and the instructor will just see this tool has requested to join the meeting.
Yes. Yeah.
And, unless you're aware, hey, that's a student guest or that's a student who didn't log in through Canvas correctly. So I'm just going to accept them so they can get in the meeting. Now, who knows where that's going? So, yeah.
What these machines think of us is just fascinating. How funny their interpretation of our reality is. So,
Well, I mean, to be fair, I was frustrated. So it did nail that. Nailed it. But the fact that it's not just taking your words, it is inferring my meaning.
Emotions and what
right.
your
If that
thoughts
does not
are.
freak you out, I mean, it freaks me out.
I got a public
I didn't
document.
say those words. It inferred it from what I said.
Yeah.
I think it
Well,
likes me.
look for this to join a meeting unbeknownst to you soon. It's probably on our call right now in the background, just transcribing as we go. So
Joke's on them. My meetings are generally nonsense.
You're going to get an email soon that says, yes, no, maybe.
all right, well, we'll close out. So Mikey, thanks very much for joining us and talking through all our challenges and offering some potential solutions. And I think we're all excited to see what Listen has coming up with Auracast in particular. But the ADA is such a wide topic, and there's so many different things we have to be aware of. We didn't even talk about the physical challenges and things like that you have to keep in mind. And that's an entire other discussion. But please come back anytime and join us. But in the meantime, how can people reach out to you? Where can they find you? Drop in your plugs here for Listen and other cool stuff you've got going, and we'll get links in the show notes for everyone listening to these after the fact.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to be here, and I'm just glad to be invited. You can find us at listentech.com. Then there is a training page where you can sign up for these webinars and get more information. There's recorded content there too. You can find me on LinkedIn, Mikey Schaefer at Listen Technologies. I hope I hear from you guys. I hope I see some of you on the webinar.
I bookmarked it. Oh,
we'll be there.
I've got it pulled up right here.
well, actually, I take it back. I can't be there. I'm going to put AI in it, and it'll be there for me, and then it'll come back and
almost
summarize.
as good as.
I have seen people's, like when I do it live and like in person, I have literally seen people go ghost white when I tell them some of the rules. Like, because it used to be that rooms under 50 didn't have to have anything, and that changed a long time ago. And I have some folks that are like, I made all my rooms 49 people to avoid this. And I was like, wow, you've been missing out on one extra student all these years. And they don't want to admit it. And I feel for them. I'm not in charge. I'm not.
We had 57 chairs, but it was only rated for 49. Don't worry about it.
You can literally see their face go in the middle of my presentation.
If you want to be involved with that, sign up because you can get some good insight and watch other people die.
If you're listening to this and you think you're compliant, the answer is you're not.
And when you join my webinar, I want cameras on so I can see your face when I tell you the bad news.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not compliant.
I like watching when I crush their feelings.
Yeah.
We've got ways to make it easier for you guys. There's all kinds of rules, and then ways to break the rules, and I will help you do the right thing.
Loopholes, best effort, things like that.
Well, all right.
All right, we're going to roll out of here. We'll be back next week with some more nonsense. We stream live every Friday at 1 p.m.-ish my time.
Ish.
No, wait, so what's that? It's 3
Your time?
Eastern, 12 Pacific.
That's
I don't know. It's the only time I pay attention to.
It's 2 my time.
It's 2 your time?
3:20 Eastern.
Ish.
About there, yeah.
3
It's
around now.
Eastern-ish, depending on how
It's
soon Mark
ish.
shows up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, guys.
Right. Get us out of here, Chris.
It's rolling. It's
We're
rolling.
doing Star Wipe?
Where's my star wipe? There it is. Oh, star wipe.
Just waiting for
So
music. Jeez.
Ramps up. Give it a minute. Well, we've managed to ruin yet another episode of AV SuperFriends Off the Rails. You can contact us with questions, topic ideas, or general complaints at mailbag@avsuperfriends.com. If you complain loud enough, we might just invite you on the show.
Nice work, everyone. Sharp broadcast. Really good. Everyone on the floor as well. Really a lot of hustle. I liked it.
The opinions expressed by the AV SuperFriends are solely those of the individuals and do not represent their respective institutions, organizations, companies, or clients.